Oh, we rise, we unite, from the mountains to the sea, warriors for the love, you and me. We are the new tribe of the earth.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Rainbow Warriors 101. For those that don't know me that are new here, I am known as Mel Standing Eagle, Chief Mel Standing Eagle. I'm a peace chief here in South Carolina. I was chosen by grandmothers, Hopi grandmothers, to carry the Chanupa that was carried by a ghost wolf, used by the Hopi elders with ghost dance, used in ceremonies by every major chief across the Midwest. And after that took place, I was called upon by the World Hereditary Council to come and do ceremony. And with the World Hereditary Council, I addressed kings, presidents, religious leaders, ambassadors from around the world, First Nations. With that, we are being recognized as Rainbow Warriors, bringing together not just Red Road, but many nations together. There are over 10,000 First Nations worldwide. So starting this day, I have sage, palo santo, a little cedar, sweetgrass, and this is Earth Day. And for this beautiful earth, I'm offering up tobacco to Creator to give thanks for this day and for the blessings for allowing us all to be here together. For those of you are new here, Rainbow Warriors' mission is to clean up Mother Earth, restore the balance as Creator had planned, as our ancestors had walked. With today's technologies, we have the ability to get rid of many pesticides, poisons that are polluting our foods. And that's why we have autism and all kinds of other things that are going on. It's because of all the poisons that we're ingesting, the stuff that's in the air from spraying Roundup. The gentlemen that are here, Dr. Wil is over White Pine, mediating thousands of acres of soil, California, cleanup of a dump site, and they have the ability to clean the soil and restore it down to 200 foot deep. So think about that. So they bring it back to a natural state to where worms are happy and feeding and creating beautiful crops, cleaning the soil. Brother Lance, who's sitting in here, he's from Beam Agroscience. He has chaired panel of scientists over the years, research scientists around the world, and their mission is much like ours, is natural farming as much as possible to make this healthier. And not only are we into this point, but we will be going into plant medicines for us. Last week we talked about medicine for the plants. This week, we're expanding even further, and as we go further into this, we will be introducing you to manufacturers around the world. In Africa, we're working with thousands of acres of land, restoring kingdoms, helping them become self-independent once again. And that's very important. So, our freedom, everyone has a right. We should all be equal. And corporations has held us down. Governments has held us down. And it's time we as first people step up to the plate and we hold the line. All nations coming together and working on the commonalities, not preaching a religion, not preaching a politics, but working together for the common good of the next 7 generations to come. And with that being said, on this Earth Day, we give thanks to Mother Earth. And Dr. Wil, Brother Wil, I now turn it over to you, sir.
All right. Glad to be here. Thank you so much, Mel. I've been at figuring out how to fix the earth, the soil around me for a little over 30 years, back in the early 1990s, from my father being a big farmer, spraying pesticides, and as a kid, and then from my ill health from those pesticide residues and chemicals, then come to find out how to what my sicknesses were from, for the most part, and then correct that, correct the pesticide residue, commercial fertilizer damage from my own property as well as my own health. So um, we put things together that are user friendly now, that there's no such thing as forever chemicals anymore. They don't exist out into the in the world if you're going to be using the systems that I've built for the soil as well as our body. So there is no such thing anymore as suffering from those chemicals if you use the system. And the system is all natural, and it encompasses. I don't know if some of you have been here in the talks earlier this month and last month, but I'll just recap a little bit, Mel, if you're okay with that. Yeah, okay. Um, so all natural systems. So I've had over 40 different mentors in my life so far. There's still a few of them that are alive. And they meaning some of them, over a dozen of them were microbiologists, were plant specialists, agriculturalists. One of them being Lance Beam, who's on the call here as well. And what they've shared with me is using natural means to correct a toxic environment, whether that's out in the environment, meaning outside of us, or the environment on the inside of us. We're all part of that environment. And so we're only really 10% human. We're 90% other, and that the other is other organisms, bacteria, fungi, and other more evolved organisms like flukes and nematodes and all kinds of different livestock that live inside of us and just like outside of us. So it's all about the harmony. It's all about the immune system. It's all about the function, the vitality. And so that's what I've been putting together all these years. One of my partners, Patrick Militich, was supposed to be here. I'm just going to check again. He said he was going to be here. I don't see a response from him yet. So I don't know. He got busy. He's traveling as well as I am. So stuff like this happens. So we just overcome and adapt the best we can. Yeah, he's not anywhere to be found. So we'll carry on. I think Lance and I can carry the torch fine. Couple of things. One of them we talked about was soilsaviors.org. You can go and learn about that stuff there, as well as mine's bodyelectrician.com. I'm also a naturopath in fixing my own health problems. Discovered and created myself as a naturopath to fix things. So not just outside of us, but inside of us. And the body electrician name is we're energy first. We're this meat suit that we live in here is just slowed down, denser energy. And so now with the technology we have, we can measure the amount of vitality or life force that we have. We can measure a lot of things. Actually, we can measure now over 380,000 different things. Basically everything that is in existence, all the different elements and everything. In essence, everything comes from the earth. What they're calling synthetic chemistry and things, they still comes from the earth in one form or another. So like some of the pesticide residues, and here Lance is a specialist in some of this, but they're extracting elements from petroleum that's been brought up from deep in the earth, or coal. So in essence, it's coming from a natural substance, but they're pulling it out, synthesizing it, mixing it, reformulating it, and then using it in one fashion or another. And our soil has been polluted everywhere. And actually, there's several books. This is not new. It may be new to some, but there's books from the 1943 era called The Agricultural Testament by Sir Albert Howard, I believe. It's the Agricultural Testament. Rudolf Steiner was writing about this stuff back 105 years ago. Another book from the late 1800s, early 1900s called Feed and Feed Stuff, talking about agricultural feed and talking about the nutrient deficiencies back then, over 120 years ago, in the soils and what diseases it was causing in animals and humans. And so we're today a solid 100 years in just the depletion of nutrition, not even including the toxic levels of pesticide residues and commercial fertilizers and so forth, and industrial stuff from the air that's getting washed down onto the water. We've heard of acid rain, many years ago. And so what I was taught was the use of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, to digest, break down, remediation. Lances use that term. To transmute is another. I like to use the word transmute because we're actually, with the microorganisms, they sense the toxicity. They create the enzymes and other exudates on the outside of their cellular body, which then interacts with the toxins, creating or turning the toxin into either a colloid mineral or an essential fatty acid, which is a benefit for the environment. So the remediation isn't just removing it from the environment. The remediation is digesting it and turning it in from one element into another non-toxic element. It's like eating food, and they do the same thing. We've heard of probiotics. That's what these organisms really are. They're microbes, which are also called probiotics if you're using them for supplements. But it's the same organisms that are doing this work inside of us, in our gut, in our body, as well as in the soil and in the water and our environment, to do the same thing. We are the living earth as well as they are. This is what I love about Mel and his mission, because we are 90% nature inside of our skin. And these illnesses and things we're having go on right now, socially, systemically, physically, is because of that imbalance that's happening. And the immune function is not working right. That goes for environmentally as well, outside of us as well as inside of us.
Yeah, we're a bunch of dinosaurs here, honoring the ancestors and trying to make this earth a better place for the next 7 generations to come.
And you're working with Soil Saviors
So,
.com, I guess.
.org.
.org. Okay.
.org. Yeah, we're that is a private membership association. There's Pat. He's not able to make it tonight, but you can go check him out. There's tons of videos and stuff on here. But so what we basically have done is taken something that's fairly complicated and reduced it down into a user-friendly and very straightforward process for fertility, as well as for cleaning the junk out of your soils and making nutrient dense, thriving, high yielding food. And Lance, for almost a decade now, has been doing studies and demonstrations with our products in different foods. Lance, if you want to feel free whenever you want to talk about them. We've done quite a few trials and different things, from tomatoes to beans to I don't even know all the different things that you've been doing fully.
Yeah, peppers and sweet corn and sugar cane and probably 10 crops. And the thing I was evaluating, which is very impressive, is the increase in yield as a result of using just a couple of components, the resonator and the archaea. And can you tell them a little bit more about the resonator and the archaea? And then we could probably go back and talk about the other products to add to that. But
Sure.
just discuss what the uses are besides remediation, what we've been seeing with the growth response. I can give them that information.
Sure. So the product name Resonator is 125 plus strains of bacteria, organisms that work in concert together. They cannot go pathogenic. It's I've never seen it at all ever yet in 30 years. So, but that particular product, those organisms in there, they just love things like hydrocarbons, which is oil or things that come from oil or coal, or breaking down salts, for instance, which is a lot of your commercial fertilizers, and then breaking down other contaminants in the soil, from the aluminum and mercury and arsenic, and breaking them down and turning them into usable compounds for plants. And so the other product that Lance was talking about, the archaea, archaea used to be considered bacteria. Not that long ago, they've now classified them as a species unto themselves. Like instead of bacteria, they've separated them out to their own classification. I believe it's called. Lance, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong there. I'm not.
Yeah.
Can't think of these names all right off the top of my head, but
Well, it's kind of the difference in mammals calling it a human versus a horse, or a reptile. It's a classification, but it's a unique separation from all the other bacteria in a group because of its, I forget, there are a couple of particular things, but you and I both know it as something that survives, lives in a hostile environment, and the other ones can't, and has unique properties of living without carbon or protein, being able to survive just off of oxygen by separating that from various molecules. And we could go into that a little bit longer, but the main thing, and I keep saying this, is like a titanium Mighty Mouse that goes in and just pulls things apart and breaks them into basic elements, like I talked about, the pixie sticks that build up a molecule like a house. You break everything back down, then it reassembles into safe, essential amino acids, which is unique and non-toxic. So you could take toxic molecules, break them up. The archaea takes the oxygen. If there's carbon there to be had or protein, it'll rebuild itself and replicate. But if there isn't anything that would make it possible for it to replicate, it just lives off of the oxygen, and it can be for minutes to centuries. It's one of those kind of things that can be brought back to life years later, unlike other bacteria, which normally gets destroyed.
another really good characteristic of those is if there's no oxygen present, they will make oxygen. They will break something else down and create the oxygen if they need it as well. Because a lot of these organisms, they've been harvested from areas where there's low or no oxygen, like 8,000 foot deep at the bottom of the ocean, coming out of a very high temperature sulfur vent where there's very little oxygen and high pressures. And so when they sense an environment, they will immediately create these enzymes to clean that environment, like Lance was saying. They will create the environment so it'll be healthy for them, and in turn is healthy for us.
And I mentioned last week, Will, that there were some examples, but right now we're working on a project in California where they have the forever chemistry like DDT and 1,3-D, DBCP, and some of these other ones that are built on these hydrocarbons, and they're very long lasting. Unfortunately, Some of them might have been sprayed, 50 years ago and are still in the soil and still, unfortunately, able to be taken up by plants. So this is why we're in the remediation portion of the business too. Will is, I mean, but why we're working on this project in particular at a dump site in California. So
We all sort of know there's something wrong.
can you hear this?
The paradigms we're living in with our food production, agriculture,
Yes.
chemicals.
Good.
We are looking for new solutions, a new way of thinking about things. My name is Nicholas Phone. I'm joined by Dr. Wil Spencer. And today we're going to look at a lot of the problems that the world is facing with toxicity, with nutrient loss, and we're going to find some solutions. So, Dr. Wil, can you tell us what people are struggling or suffering with on their farms, in their gardens, and really just with their health in general?
Yes, overall we have a real diminished environment. It's been going on for some time. Diminished from the real nutrients in the soil that really make a high quality food, that lead to really exaggerated yields, and that has been permeated through the entire food chain.
And we're also seeing, topsoil erosion, chemicals showing up all over the environment, increased pressure from weeds and pests and things like that. What are you seeing and hearing from your clients as far as their top problems that they want help solving?
Top problems: pest control, the weeds growing up. That's a really big problem. Weed control, again, pests. Yield diminishment, because everyone gets paid by the pound or the bushel or whatever. So their yields have been diminishing over time, and everyone's like, oh man, if I can just get a 3% increase in yields, oh my gosh, that kind of thing. And then there's these levels of toxicity though that is becoming really prevalent, that people are really starting to pay attention to because of just the extended use for, I don't know, 75 years maybe of conventional methods.
And I think that toxicity and the problems you were sharing is why people are probably on this video. And so this video is really for those that are open-minded, that are seeking solutions to these problems, that want a new paradigm, a new model to go after to grow healthy, nutritious food, stop the chemical use, clean up the environment. I mean, the people that use these products and that you help are really the conservationists. They want to leave a legacy for their family. They don't want to expose their family and their pets and themselves to these chemicals, which we know are causing all kinds of environmental and health and ecosystem issues. And so today we're going to get into some really exciting solutions and some ways to solve these problems, think on a huge scale, and really share a movement that's going on. It's like a new agricultural revolution. And so we're going to share some of the principles behind that. And so, Dr. Wil, we talked earlier today, and you said you kind of had this big realization that came to you from your studies about this agricultural revolution that we talked about. So what was that realization for you, and how did you come to it?
Well, you must be talking about my potato trial back in the mid early 90s. And so I bought my first farm at 21 years old, and coming from conventional ag, where my dad was a larger farmer, 3,000 acres, 800 and some cows, beef cows, and he raised roughly 1,000 acres of potatoes that mostly got sold like to Simplot, or it was not Frito-Lay, these big commercial guys. And so I was given, right after I got my farm, a good friend of mine gave me some books. One was the set of books from, they're called the Agricultural Seminars or whatever, from Rudolf Steiner, and the other one was the Agricultural Testament from Sir Albert Howard or something. And I read those through that first winter, and I was so excited because they were going to plant potatoes across the road for me, 137 feet away from my garden. So I had begun to do some heavy experimenting, and like, okay, so if these books that are really 50 years or plus years old, and these guys are right. And I was being told some of these things by my mentors at that point. I'm gonna try. So I put it together. I didn't just try, I succeeded, but so I did what I thought was great, from what I learning. That spring I planted my potatoes in my field, 137 feet from 90 acres of conventional potatoes, and it started to grow. And so a few weeks into growth, all of a sudden I noticed across the road the bugs are starting to eat the tops of the potatoes. And so I'm like, okay, they're going to start spraying here really soon. And in the area of Minnesota where I was from, they use airplanes a lot and helicopters. And so I made sure to kind of talk to the farmer to find out when, so I could be in the yard because I wanted to witness this, prove this out. So the day came. Yeah. They started dive bombing the field across the road, and I'm standing in the yard. It was late morning on a really calm day, and I envisioned what I was witnessing like in the 1930s Dust Bowl when the grasshopper plague, because the sky actually was darkened by the amount of bugs that came across the road 137 feet and found my field. And I was really scared. I was like, okay, this is sink or swim right here. And I was so excited because as the next couple days, I never lost a potato plant in my field on my side of the road to any bugs at all. Actually, they landed on my potatoes and they weren't eating them. They just landed on them, and then they just kind of migrated over into my regular garden with just regular soil and basically stripped my tomatoes down to nothing. But they didn't touch my plots, my test plots. And actually, the test plots went on to be just unbelievable, exaggerated yields of potatoes, like wheelbarrow loads of potatoes. But that was my first introduction experiment. That was amazing to me. That how come they're eating 90 acres of potatoes over there and they've got to spray them with chemicals, but mine, they didn't touch. I'm using zero chemicals. I'm using all natural biodynamic type stuff, heavy nutrients and probiotics and things, and not one potato. I didn't lose one. Actually, they thrived through the whole season, where next door they sprayed every 7 to 10 days for bugs the rest of that growing season.
That's incredible. So this plague of grasshoppers flies over to your yard.
Well, potato beetles, but yes.
Okay,
it was like the grasshopper plague that we heard. Yeah,
grasshoppers. I guess that's my conditioning. But they come over, they land on your potatoes. Don't eat them. They go to your regular
in the garden
and just dissolve
everything
in there.
I didn't have a good year in my garden.
So that's what we're talking about today: is the principles that set that plot up to be protected from pests, to have incredible yields. And it's going to take a new way of thinking, but I know people watching this video are open-minded enough and innovative enough to listen and to see the solution in this. So
there's all kinds of videos like this throughout that website as well embedded in
mineral
there.
and nutrients in the proper form.
Right.
So how did you, what form do they need to be in, and how did you learn about that?
The two forms of the minerals that are essential for life are in the colloid form, coming from natural, like a humic shale deposits or humic and fulvic deposits on the planet, and then in the ocean mineral, or like a sea salt of salt electrolyte variety. Those are the two types of minerals that are essential. I mean, in history, salt was money at one point in time.
Salary comes from the word salt.
Yeah, and so you've got the saying of worth your weight in salt. I mean, it's that important for inland life. And so those are the two. And there was a book, I can't remember the name, on the salt that I got back in that same time. I literally was given a box of books from some friends of mine as a welcome to your new farm, new life present. The other one was I heard a presentation by Dr. Joe Wallach talking about his minerals and why they're the best and everything. He was getting his from a humic shale deposit in Utah somewhere, which are good. I mean, those were the best up until we discovered the deposit where we have now. That is just, the vitality is so much more higher. It's got the elements there, but they're in a much easier, better, faster digestibility form for life. So it's the colloid minerals from Dr. Joe Wallach. That was my introduction to that. And then this other book about sea minerals and the historical thing about salt, sea salt. And that was like, oh, and that's what I was using to some extent in my beds with those potatoes.
I have a degree in agricultural economics, and I never heard the word colloid minerals until I started hanging out with you and Pat. And so that's been something I've had to wrap my brain around, and you can understand because it's just a different way to understand. Most people think a mineral is a mineral is a mineral. But what exactly does it mean for a mineral to be in a colloid form?
So in the natural evolution, you have these deposits of natural metals, so say copper or gold or silver or cobalt or whatever, and they work their way up into the biological layer, and then basically a colloid is the natural mineral, in whatever form it gets digested with using microbes, exudates over long periods of time to break them down and make them into a digestible form. So the microbe, just like in our gut, the microbes that are in, or the probiotics that are in our gut, they actually eat our food, really, or create exudates or enzymes to break the food down to then make it available to us. Well, they do the same in the plant world, in the soil, in the biosphere, in the soil, that top crust layer. They're actually breaking these elements down, making them readily available to the plant. And so that's the colloid form. It's like a pre-digested almost through a microbe or a probiotic to make it ready for the next step in the food chain.
That's amazing. And I've heard that we don't digest our food, our microorganisms do. And I think that's probably fairly true, and it made sense to me. But you're saying that microorganisms digest metals and minerals.
It's in a natural metallic form. They call them metals, but yeah, it's a natural metal, not an industrial metal, but similar. Yeah,
and they turn them into colloid minerals, which then can be utilized by plants and then animals
up the food chain,
and eventually us.
Correct.
So I guess the two things that make everything you do so different than the conventional system is that the right forms and diversity of microorganisms are digesting natural metals in the environment to convert them into minerals in a very specific form. Is that accurate?
Yeah, very specific form, a colloid form that's readily taken up into the next step.
It's just a whole new way of thinking, and I know
it's natural science.
Yeah.
Not clinical science.
Once I started to understand this, everything started to make sense. So let's talk about some of the limiting beliefs that people have about solutions that they're using now. And I know one of them is weeds. And I'm sure you hear this a lot as an objection, and certainly I thought this in my garden. There's weeds in there. I need to treat them. Chemicals are the way. Natural solutions really don't work for weeds. I guess talk to me about what is a weed exactly?
A weed is a concept that come out of germ theory and the clinical academic mindset of identifying and controlling nature. Okay, that weed is actually coming out of that mindset. It's not a natural science thing, because in natural science, there's no such thing as a weed. It doesn't exist. There's only healing herbs that have a purpose. Because for instance, let's talk dandelion. Most people understand a dandelion. And you have the conversation in your yard in a city that if you have a dandelion, like there's something wrong with it in your yard. You have to kill that thing. It's an unwanted plant, a weed. When in natural science, that weed is actually communicating to us that there's a deficiency and a problem. And so when you correct that problem, like a calcium deficiency, and that the dandelion is trying to tell us that, hey, I'm here, so I'm trying to heal this deficiency. So when you correct the deficiency, then there's no need for the dandelion to be there anymore, and it goes away. And so that's the two paradigms that we're looking at. So in my world, there's no such thing as weeds. There's only beneficial plants that are trying to do something. And when you can figure it out and identify what the problem is, then the unwanted plant, it moves somewhere else because it's not needed in that environment.
Yeah, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about dandelion tea. And we don't think about drinking a weed tea. It's in a different context.
Medicinal herb in that context, yeah.
It's a medicinal herb. And so it's only ever our frame of mind about whether we think that plant should or shouldn't be there, because they all have beneficial uses, right?
Everyone.
So tell us about how they pull. I mean, if the people listening are farmers, they understand fixing nitrogen into the soil through crop cycling.
Yeah.
Tell us how weeds do the same thing, and maybe just in a different way.
I could stick to the dandelion conversation because my family had a business of spreading high calcium lime dust on agricultural land, mostly dairies in the upper Midwest and Canada. In my teenage years, that's what I did, sitting on tractors endlessly, spreading this dust, if you will, this byproduct of limestone out into the environment. And it was, so the dandelions were so heavily in some of these fields, alfalfa fields, for these dairies back in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, that the dandelions were causing problems. And this is the ag consultant view. The dandelions were overtaking the alfalfa. It was like this war competition thing. And so they were, some of these dairies were smart enough at that point in time and very open-minded to use these natural remedies, if you will, by putting this nutrient on their soil to cause the dandelions to go away. And the byproduct of that is their hay that they were growing for their dairy cows were just exaggerated growth, exaggerated pounds, tons per acre, so there was a open-mindedness, and I was part of that movement in the 80s. And so we would spread our lime on the field pretty much every year in a certain area in the upper Midwest in Canada. And the weeds, the dandelions would dissipate over time, and their alfalfa would grow, and that was our job. And so that's where my first introduction really in a commercial setting became aware that, oh, wow. So my dad in the 70s, when he was spraying with the pesticides, and now he transitioned to putting this lime on, like, we're correcting a problem with no chemicals here, where just a decade earlier there was chemicals. And so that was my first big epiphany there, that like, oh wow, we don't need chemicals really. And really the dandelions, that's when I was just learning herbology and all this other stuff. Like, that dandelion is so smart that it just pops up and grows in this area where it's needed. And when it's not needed anymore, it just moves away.
That's incredible. So these weeds are the messengers for what's missing in the system, and their job is to pull those specific minerals and nutrients out of the environment and put them back into the soil. And when you add them back to the soil, they disappear. And so here's the problem with the old paradigm, is that you see a weed pop up, you think that's a problem, you spray it, you kill it, but you don't fix the deficiency that's in the soil to begin with. And so you don't ever really move forward. You have to keep treating and keep treating and keep spraying, correct?
Correct. And we can talk about that mechanism, why it's even there. And so, for instance, the dandelion has a innate ability, that sense that there's lacking calcium and a few other things, but the main one is calcium. And the dandelion has a really deep root. So it's going down, and it's got a lot of leaves on top of the earth. So it is mining these minerals down deep, bringing them up, and also sequestering these elements out of the air and putting them into the plant itself. And then at the end of its growing cycle, it dies. And it composts down into the soil, and it's affixing, it's bringing in from the environment these nutrients and putting it right there at the level where it's needed for the surrounding plants. That's how it heals it. I mean, that to me that's just amazing to me that nature can actually do that to correct these problems. But it takes a long time to really, because we're mining so heavily over longer periods of time with intensive agriculture, that it does take a lot longer. But it's a natural process.
Maybe you could talk a little bit more about some of the other things that you're doing, to encourage nutrient dense food. How about that?
There we go. Because I personally, I'm a garden freak, and I'm always making changes. Well, and I've got we got more flowers than anybody can imagine all around my garden, because I want to make sure I keep every type of bug away. And then also thinking about where I had my tomato plants the last couple of years, and what it took from the soil, and how I need to shift, and how we need to rotate the crops, but also where your nutrients that you have discovered, how they help come back and re-enrich and make these plants so much better and so much juicier, and return it to a more natural state. That excites me to no end.
Yeah, so there's over 1,000 strains of different organisms from around the planet, all soil organisms or earth, microbes from the earth. Um, they have their job, but then there's also nutrients that are in those products, the colloid minerals, as well as minerals from the ocean that we've collected. We're actually collecting out of the ocean deep in the Atlantic, and then we ferment all of these things, meaning we pre-digest them with organisms in big vats and things, and then put them in our products, and then you put them in your garden, and it makes that nutrients available to your plants, and so you're able to get the nutrient density by your own humic matter that you have there, but also the trace elements, the very small, like yttrium, for instance. Hardly anyone has ever heard of yttrium, but yet we need yttrium. The plant needs yttrium for certain genetic and immune functions. We do too. And it's virtually not in any soil anywhere anymore. And our taste buds pick up this nutrient density. It's very easy for us as humans to identify nutrient density, is because the flavor profile is so like you eat a strawberry that's raised with nutrient dense soil, and you drool. I mean, you taste it. It's versus you go to the store like Walmart or whatever, these big stores, and you get their food that's conventionally raised. It's kind of bland. It doesn't really taste like a strawberry. Same with a tomato or anything, asparagus. I mean, any of the crop. So we have a subtle ability to taste all of that, and what we're getting is all those nutrients, all those different minerals that are in these plants. We have all these different taste buds in our mouth and in our olfactory, in our sinuses, that we actually pick all of these things up. We pick the mineral up in the food that we're eating. We smell it, we taste it, and these receptors, they turn on. They go to our brain. I mean, so this is a sensory electrical experience that's happening when you have nutrient dense food. And so I don't know how much time do we have, Mel. I'm not really paying attention to the clock, so you're going to kind of have to be the timekeeper too.
Brother, you're good right now sharing, and we got questions in the chat room wanting to know, is this a similar method to the Korean farming techniques used with fermentation?
Well, that's interesting. This is the second time I've done a podcast this week, and this is the second time that that question has come up. Evidently, that's a big thing. So Not really, because the organisms that we have in our product in the system are not fermentable outside of their natural environment, and they've been harvested from very extreme environments, like Lance was saying earlier. They don't just ferment, or they don't just digest very easily. Uh, in the Korean method, you're actually gathering whatever organisms are in that particular environment. And so my biologist mentors, what they have shown me is over 80% of our microbial diversity has been destroyed in our environment 50 years ago. And so I'm not discounting the Korean method, but what I'm saying is it's severely lacking in diversity. And the other thing that I'm finding out is that I've found out is that in our soils, we have genetically modified organisms that are living freely in our soils. And so I don't want genetically modified organisms in my garden. And so therefore, the Korean method is not a bad idea if, in fact, we lived in a healthy, in a diverse, in a non-toxic environment. I just think I don't like that situation, because I know that unhealthy organisms are living, meaning genetically modified organisms are freely living. Like, for one is Bacillus thuringiensis, which is the organism that they call Bt toxin. It's a genetically modified bacillus strain that wreaks havoc with with our gut lining, with the corn borer. It's actually a synthetic or a genetically modified bacteria that they spliced into the corn plant, the cotton plant, and several others. And when the corn borer eats the plant, or the cotton weevil eats the cotton ball, the bacteria that's in the plant destroys the insect's guts and kills it. And so that one particular organism lives freely out in our environment right now, and I really don't want to cultivate that and duplicate that, because it's not a good thing. And so our organisms, they live out their life, but they do not they don't reproduce that easily like some of these other organisms that are readily plentiful in our environment today. So I don't know if Lance, if you got any more to add to that, but
Well, yeah, the BT actually I work for Abbott Labs. They make a lot of medicines out of fermentation, and BT itself, that strain, although there's many strains, and that's the concern, but most insect uh, bacteria bacteria that control insects, insects have a alkali gut rather than an acidic like ours. So when they consume the bacteria, it breaks the bacteria open and releases the toxin. You and I every day eat some things because our bodies have adapted through, centuries to not succumb to that bacteria, but it passes through our gut and exits. However, if you constantly have it in the plant that you're eating, not on the surface, but in the surface, there's a good chance that somebody's going to be receptive to it and get sick. It's lethal to insects. We've had some discussions about how archaea, works differently on things than on us, and so forth. So it's not a frankenfood, but it is a problem because of the persistence. We're going to have resistance, and people then will get sick as well from the BT. That's already happening to a part of the population who's now allergic to the foods because of that. So all this impregnation of things that we think are safe, sooner or later with evolution, we force the new those to become more sick or more resistant. It's just a part of nature. So, we're pushing the envelope right now by depending on these GMOs. And I've been around from the start of those things, unfortunately, and I've seen both benefits. Oh, it's a bright new day for the first 5 years or so. And then you start seeing resistance with herbicides, resistance, with the natural the pesticides, the problems. So that's where we're at now. We're back again. I said this a couple of weeks ago. We just can't go back to nature and live off of 100 acres. We got to live off of 10 acres, and we need to be more smart with our tools. And the beauty of what you and I are doing, Will, by crook or hook, is hook or crook, is that we've seen the evolution of this, and we're lucky to fall into this piece that is allowing us to revive the natural products, not just because they're natural, but because they work as effectively as the synthetic. That's my game. That's your game. We're trying to get back to nature, but nature didn't always protect us. What we're doing is finding the best of nature and protecting our food crops without being synthetic and destroying a lot of the environment at the same time.
That's a beautiful thing, Lance. I mean, listening to that, knowing that we take in the wisdom of our ancestors and being able to use today's technology to get back to the basics and to bring it back. One of the questions I see in the chat room, and they were going up, is how long will the organisms be present in the soil from an application?
Well, that depends on the environment, but the thing to remember is that we are in today's world, and I've been in every state in this union recently, all over this country, and as well as Canada. The air pollution that is raining down on us is a constant thing. Mm-hmm. And so this isn't going to be a fast, easy fix. And so as of right now, you're going to have to keep applying things, because if you don't, you're going to get a buildup of these toxins. And organisms are there breaking them down, digesting them. They don't last forever in the soil, and there's some unknowns just because of the level of toxicity pretty much all over, that at this point, if you want healthy food, you need to be using these products, because this is not just a allopathic fix. You're taking the food off of your land that you're growing and you're eating them. Okay, you're taking the nutrients out of the soil through the plant, and then either feeding it to animals or yourself. And so you've got to replenish these things back into the soil on a continual basis. That's the whole biodynamic way of, you're treating that soil as an organism. You're taking from the soil in one way or another. You need to be putting back into that soil one way or another as well. And so that's a easy question, but it's not the easiest answer to give, because of the toxic situation that we're in.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense, because I know in various areas with the different soil, and especially in First Nations tribal, from one area to another, certain plants thrive much better than others. And when you're dealing with drought and various other things, you need every tool, every resource that you can get to do that. And I'm really concerned about autism and the attention deficit that we see among our children now. And we know much of that is caused because of the ingredients that are in the food and the lack of nutrition. And too often I see that we're eating food, and it's like we're eating just to be eating, but we're not getting those supplements within that food. And that's what I like about this, that it's helping to restore and bring back the balance in it. And having a nice juicy tomato with flavor. Brother, it doesn't get much better than that. Anyone? Go ahead.
I'll make a real quick comment. Did a trial for Will, but several on crops that you would measure bricks like grapes and tomatoes, peppers, things like that. On the tomato study, we found typically the bricks on a processing tomato, one that would be turned into paste that Hunt, Wesson, or Del Monte would be purchasing rather than a big, fat, flavorful, but watery, juicy tomato. We're looking for density, like we're talking about density of food. And that's why I'm going to just leave you with this, is that we were able to increase from the standard 5-degree bricks measurement for the paste tomato for Hunt Wesson when the farmer was growing for them. They measured it, it was 5.1. So they were able to meet their standard requirement to meet that degree of bricks. And then their tonnage, they had like 65 tons, I think, Will, if I remember right. And with your product, with the resonator, it wasn't as high as it was with the Archaea, but what we saw, and there's more in the Archaea, what we saw was an increase in bricks that went from 5.1 to 5.8. Well, the grower gets $60 a ton if it meets the 5-degree brick standard. So with 5.1, he got an extra $1 for every 0.1 degree bricks increase. So he got $60 more per acre. However, Will's product on the resonator went to 5.4. So I got an extra $3 on top of the one. And with the Archaea, it went to 5.8. So, the math was really good because, at 60 tons, that's 8 times 6 is $480 extra per acre, considering the math, that was substantial. And if I remember correctly, we did wine grapes, we did table grapes, we did fruit. I can't remember which tree fruit it was, if it was a peach or a cherry. But in all cases, we were increasing the bricks, which is the measurement for solids, in the case of sugars or in case of minerals. And the other thing was we absolutely increased the zinc, the manganese, I can't remember if it was calcium, but it was some of the specific minerals that were involved with the maximizing of the plant hormones and the growth pattern. So anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. Mel, we should answer the questions for the folks, and I'll just slide the screen down.
Yes, sir. Another question. Is this product available in the UK?
Yeah, we're working some of the things out to ship this international. We have, and so if there's any issues, it's because of some paperwork changes, and we're working our way through that.
Okay. Let's see. I'm looking down the chat room. Siege ready, DT nailed it. All right, that's all positive. Yeah, I like what you covered on those tomatoes because I'm so blessed this year that I got some tomatoes from the old country in Italy, the seeds, and I've got 4 different varieties. 3 of them I've got coming up. I'm having a problem with one of them, but the big juicy tomatoes is nice. But I also got the pasta type tomatoes too, which is kind of cool. So I'm looking forward to blending those down and trying them and just trying to make some of my own sauce and stuff. All right, guys, anyone else in the chat room got any questions? If you do, pop them up. Gentlemen, I appreciate you being in here tonight. This video will be edited and be up sometime tomorrow. It'll be on Facebook, it'll be on YouTube, and it will be on Rumble, so that everyone around the world, all our partners, will be able to have access to this. And the guys are working on their website. They're doing things to make products easier for the individual gardener, which is I'm glad to see, because they're working with all of us. There's a lot of us that don't own farms but really care about what we eat. And I've got a little portable greenhouse that I have, and so I try to grow stuff pretty much year round. So being able to have access to these things makes quite a difference in my world, and I'll be documenting some photos and things like that in the this as they grow this summer. And my Hopi corn, I hope all my friends out there are going to be happy, because my Hopi corn right now is probably about 14 inches tall, and they're looking beautiful. Lance, Will, I appreciate you guys for being here tonight.
You bet.
And
Hey,
Thank
tell
you all.
everybody they can order this through soilsaviors.com, or is it .org?
.org.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's some,
All right.
and by the way, there's some really great videos over on Soil Saviors. So, and I didn't even get into Will's heritage, but he's red blood, and he comes from mixed tribes, and so he cares about the people, and this is the kind of people that I'm associating with, Rainbow Warriors, those that care about restoring and bringing back Mother Earth. So this Earth Day, we give thanks. I hope you did something, plant a flower, go talk to a tree, hug a tree, let it know that you appreciate it. Remember, they have frequency, and we are all frequency. We're all energy, and together we all grow stronger. And with that, we can work on the commonalities as one and make this earth a better place for everyone here. God bless. Aho.
Oh, we rise, we unite, from the mountains to the sea, warriors for the love, you and me. We are the new tribe of the earth, connecting our spirits, remembering our worth. First Nation standing hand in hand.